Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I picked up the Soldano plugin binaural DSP. I installed it on the Quad Cortex. I created a preset on that. I'll link to that video here. But this now is the third plugin that I have that's compatible with the Quad Cortex. I also have the Nolly plugin, but compatibility for that is a couple months away at least. But someone's asked, what are your favorite pieces of each plugin? And so I thought I'd put together a preset that's pulling together some of my favorite components out of each of the plugin packs and kind of create, one single preset that's pulling my favorites in. And that's one of the great things about using the plugins on the Quad Cortex is they're broken up into all their individual components, and you can mix and match them, not only with each other, but with all the other models on the Quad Cortex, all the captures you can find, any IRs you want to download, all that stuff. So for this preset, what I've done is I've stuck mostly to just the stuff that came with the different preset packs. And I did that just to kind of keep in that preset world. So obviously to use this preset, you would need to own all three of the presets that I'm using, which are the Plini, the Gojira, and the Soldano. But if you have those, you can download this preset. I'll make it available on my Cortex Cloud account, and you can feel free to check it out for yourself. But I figured today I just kind of go through it and talk about the different components that I picked from each preset and why I like ones over the other. Before I do that, I've always resisted saying this kind of stuff during my videos, but I thought it might be worthwhile to mention that, my channel is pretty small. If you want to help out, some of the simple things you can do is obviously hit the like button on the video if you're watching these videos and you're finding them valuable. Leave a comment, even if it's just, hey, thanks for making this video. Those kinds of things really help, small channels like mine. If you're seeing some of my videos and you like them, feel free to subscribe. And the other thing you can do is in the description, you'll find a Sweetwater affiliate link. So if you're looking to buy a Quad Cortex or a Nano Cortex, you can hit that link and you can help out the channel that way. So enough of that. Let's get into the preset. So here you can see I've got a preset. I'm calling it Plugin Mix. And right now I'm running in scene view, although I do have a hybrid view of this as well that I'll get into later. So let's start with kind of this main kind of clean tone. And I do have a chorus on it. And so it sounds like this. And so I ended up using a lot of the components from the Plini plugin for this. So I'm using the Plini comp. So there's two comps available in the plugins. One's the Plini, one's the Soldano. I like the Plini a little better. It's simpler. It sounds really good, so I stuck with that. For the amps, this was a harder choice. I ended up going with the Plini clean over using the Soldano clean. I don't think the Gojira, in my opinion, or at least to my taste, has as good of clean tone that I like. But comparing the Plini with the Soldano, for me, the Plini had a little more kind of fullness to it, a little more warmth. The Soldano is kind of a little more scooped maybe. So I ended up going with the Plini here, and I'm using the Plini cabinet with it. And like I usually do, I've got the low high cut set. I did raise the high pass filter a little bit. Usually I have it around 80 or 70. I did raise it to about 100 because I found the Plini stuff can get, on the clean tones, can get a little boomy in the bass sometimes. Okay, there's three courses to choose from here. There's one on the Soldano, there's one on the Gojira, there's one on the Plini. I went with the Plini because I like how it sounds. I like the different modes, especially the spatial, and I really just kind of enjoyed it. It's set relatively subtly. And then for delays and reverbs, I start with the reverbs. Again, I went with the one with the Plini because I liked how it sounded best. It wasn't as overpowering. It was kind of a little more, not in your face. And for delays, I went with the Plini, although the Plini and the Gojira delays, I think, are the same exact delays. At least the setup's the same. All the controls are the same. So I think you could go with either one. I went with a Plini just because that's the first one I brought up. But when you look at the Gojira, it's exactly the same. And so, again, here's my clean tone. And I was going for kind of a 80s kind of clean tone with this. And then if you take that, I'm taking away the chorus and I'm bringing the compression down, but using the compressor to push the level, again, just to have a little bit of a, maybe of a clean boost. So maybe it's starting to add a little bit of grit there when you really dig in, but those are kind of my clean tones. From there, I've got a kind of an overdrive low gain sound here. And here I had a little bit of trouble deciding exactly which one I wanted to use. And you'll see I've got the Gojira OD here, which is kind of a tube screamerish kind of thing. And then I got the Plini drive, which is really great because it's got a lot of flexibility to it. It can be an OD or it can be a fuzz. In the end, for the scene, I ended up sticking with the Gojira OD. It's just a really nice sounding overdrive. You know, the Plini one is good as well. I just ended up favoring the Gojira by just a little bit. But I've set up the hybrid mode so you could switch between them if you wanted to, so we'll get into that later. And then I've got, for kind of a main rhythm tone, I went to the Soldano. And so I'm using the Soldano on crunch mode. You know, I'm pushing quite a bit of gain. Scooping the tone a little bit, but not too much. So just a nice kind of mid-gain kind of crunchy tone. It also works well with kind of a strat on the net pickup. And then I have a version of that. And for that, I'm using a cab that's a V30, so kind of a warmer cab, very mid-focused. I take that same kind of tone and I run it through the Gojira cab, and I'm adding a little bit of chorus on the end, and this gets a... You can hear the Gojira cab's bringing out a little more treble. And again, I've got the Plini chorus on the end. From there, if we go into kind of a heavier rhythm sound, this is where I kind of dipped into the Gojira plugin. And basically, this is a 5150, and I wanted a heavy rhythm sound that was kind of a Van Halen-y kind of thing, maybe a later Van Halen 90s kind of thing. That's why, if you can see, I'm using the Gojira cab, and I got a little bit of chorus on the end, but I got the mix pretty low. So just kind of a nice, you know, a lot of presence and definition on the top end, a little bit scooped. Just kind of a nice, you know, like I said, kind of shooting for that 90s Van Halen kind of rhythm without necessarily all the kind of wet, dry, wet, you know, pitch shift kind of stuff. And then in terms of a lead tone, kind of a bass lead tone, and this is where I'm going for kind of a smoother lead, maybe more towards an Eric Johnson-y kind of thing, so nothing too aggressive. And here, I'm sticking with the Soldano SO100. We're in crunch mode. I got a little bit of compression on the front end, and I'm using This is one area that I kind of pulled in something outside the plugins. I'm using my Archer icon because for these kinds of tones, I just haven't found anything that works for me as well as this capture that I created. And it's just a matter of personal taste, but. And then for a heavier lead tone, I pulled in the Soldano again, but I'm putting it into its overdrive mode. And something unusual for me, if you're used to my presets, I am still using a little bit of compression up front, but I've got no extra drive in front of it. So I tend to stack drives if I want more gain. But in this case, I wanted kind of a heavier gain, amp-driven tone. You know, I'm shooting for something kind of in that Satriani Vi kind of range. I'm not looking to make it sound exactly like them, but I wanted something in that range. And I'm using the Gojira cabinets. And something else I should talk about, for some of the different scenes, I am kind of manipulating the delay a little bit. So for the leads, you can see I'm pushing up some of the tape settings and bringing the tone back versus the clean. I've pushed the tape stuff back and I'm pushing the tone up. So on the clean tones, I'm making the delay kind of a little more treble focused, a little less of a tape delay, more of a kind of analog digital kind of thing. And then for the leads, I'm pushing up kind of the tape delay kind of sound and pulling some of that tone back. So this sounds like this. So a real heavy, thick tone. And the neck pickup. So again, I was going for that kind of higher gain, Vi, Satriani kind of lead tone. And so I mentioned before that I had also set this up to run in hybrid mode if you wanted to. So if we go ahead and we change our mode configurations, we're going to put stomps on top of scenes. And so what I've got here is, you know, scenes we have across the bottom are the same scene. We got our clean. We got our kind of bass Soldano rhythm. And we got our heavy rhythm, which is kind of 5150 thing. And then we got our heavy lead. And then if you want, you can add different things in. So if I'm on the rhythm and I want to add a little bit of overdrive in, I can use the Gojira one. We could do that to the clean. You could try the Plini. Maybe balance that with the volume a little bit better. You could even use the phaser maybe on the heavy lead. So just kind of a fun way maybe to mix the effects a little bit differently. Go back to modes configuration, and I'm just going to take that away. Put us back in scene mode here. So, like I said, I'll make this preset available on my Quad Cortex account. Feel free to download it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.